Welcome back to GIS Gallery. In today's video, I'm going in-depth with labeling techniques in ArcGIS Pro. Labels are crucial for creating clear, informative maps, and this tutorial covers everything from basic label setup to advanced customization options. Let's dive into the world of labeling and make your map data shine.
I can now set the labeling for this. Okay, so to enable labeling, right as you clicked on symbol G, you will right click your data and then you have option here called label. Okay, this will enable the labeling for your data. So you click it, it will be enabled, and then what you need to do is you can go to the labeling properties and then it will actually show which kind of data that should be displayed in your labeling. Okay, so I can give I can actually give which field that I need to display here. So we have the different. So if when I'm clicking on the label properties, you have this kind of window open up where you can actually display what you need to be displayed on your labels, right? So I have different fields here. So if I'm double clicking a field, it will actually keep up here, and then you can validate. And if I click apply, so whatever the data that I have specified here, right? So I click for district name. So it will be displaying the district name of all my polygon file or whatever the features I have. And then I can also add other fields also. So if I want to actually display this one as well as my area square kilometer, I can just give something like area square kilometer. I can just click here to see if my so if the thing that I have give or if the expression that I have given here is valid. So it says expression is valid. Now if I click apply, it will actually display both my field. So first field was district name, right? And then I kept a empty space, right? So if I want to actually add two things here, I have to give a plus, and then I actually wanted to display an empty space, so I'll just give an empty space inside the codes, right? And then I'll just add my other field here. So what it do? It actually displayed my first field, right, district name, and it gave an empty space, and then it's displaying the other field. So I'm actually displaying the district name and an area square kilometer with the space in between, right? So that is how you can give out your what do you say, the labels, right? So for every data you can actually display your labels. And then for helper function, you can actually have different kinds of helper functions here. So something like if I want all of this data to be something like, so if you click here, you have different kinds of function. So if for the text function, if I enable the text function here, you have different functions like count, concatenate, find, left, lower. So what lower does is it actually makes your data into lowercase. So if I'm clicking on lowercase, I actually lower my district not feature name. So with this function, I'm keeping this data, right, the district name inside my lower function, and then I'm clicking validate, the expression is valid. Now when I click apply, just see how the data changes, the labeling changes here. Now see, every one of my labels, it has been changed into lowercase. Similarly, I also believe we have something called uppercase here. So we also have a function called upper. So if I'm clicking on upper here, right, and then I'm encasing this feature, this field name inside the upper function, and I'm just checking if my expression is valid. It says valid because now it has actually changed. Just keep in mind this thing doesn't change the values that you have in your attribute table. Even if this everything that's given here is an uppercase, it's not in my attribute table. This thing is, it will be only for the labels that you are showing here. It won't be saved as your what it won't be saved as your in your attribute table or whatever. Even though the data comes from your attribute table, the changes that you have done is visible only on your labels. Okay, yeah. So that is how you can enable labeling, right? And also, when if you have selected the labeling, you can see that a new tab called labeling will have opened up here, right? A new tab called labeling has been opened up. In here, you can actually set some kind of other kind of functions, right? Yeah, so this is how when you enable or click here, that's the same thing as enabling the label from here, right? So if you it's disabled now, if I click again, it's enabled, right? And then I can actually set some SQL query here. So SQL queries, I get like we did the selection, right? Select by attributes. Similar kind of similar kind of rules I can set here. So I want my labels to be applied only for the fields that begins with something like let me say T. So if I click apply, it will only show the labels for whatever the fields that are starting with T. So district name begins with T. It has displayed Thiruvananthapuram and then Thrissur only, right? And you can also give something like it means district name begins with T, and I can see something like O. You can see something like if district name ends with something like M, right? So if I click apply, does it show anything? Then it changes something here. Yeah. So when I'm setting it and nothing is displayed because none of the district that begins with T actually okay, it was begins with, right? I want to set ends with. Was I for the both condition I gave by begins with. I meant to give ends with here. Okay, so ends with. So what and condition does it? It actually only displays when both of these conditions are true, right? So where the district name should begins with T and it should end with them. So when I given that condition, the only field that is true is Thiruvananthapuram. If I'm keeping it or, which means either this condition is true or this condition is true. It doesn't matter which one is true, it will show both. But when I'm giving and, it will only show when both of these conditions are true. Okay, that's the difference between and or. Now if I'm clicking apply, see, so this Malappuram is coming here because it was ending with N, right? Thrissur is displayed here because it starts with T. Kottayam, it starts with M, column, begins with, ends with M, column, ends with M, and Tirundaram, it actually starts with T and M. But when it's and, it only displays when both of them are true, right? It should start with T and end with M also, right? So that is conditioning. You can actually set up some kind of rules to display your labeling, right? I can just remove this and click apply so that everything is displayed, okay? And then other thing is you can actually set a visibility range. Okay. So if I'm setting a scale range, it will only show when okay, 1 is to 50,000, no, 1 is to 100,000. Right. So it will show in every one of these scale range, but when I'm going inside, right, in beyond 1 is to 500,000, so you can see it's 1 is to 700,000 here, the scale, and I'm going inside this range, the labels code disappear, right? But when I'm coming out of that range, it's appearing again, and I'm going inside the range, it disappears. So that's what in beyond one the scale here means, which means if you're setting the scale here, it won't display when you're in beyond this scale, right? Similarly, you can also set the scale as out beyond, which means if you're going out of that range. So when I'm going out of the range, it won't display, right? So when I give 150,000, 500,000, when I'm going in, it will display. But when I'm out beyond the scale, it won't be displayed, right? It disappears. So that is the visibility range where you can set some kind of constraints. So if I want to actually set both kind of visibility range, I can set them also. So when I'm going out of this scale, it won't show. Similarly, when I'm going in for this 1 is to 24,000, it is too small. And 1 is to 100. I'll set it 1 is to 100. So when I'm zooming out of 1 is to 500,000, it won't display. When I'm going in to 1 is to 488,000, it displays there. But when I'm going into again 1 is to like 81,000, it disappears again. So that is the visibility range constraints. So you can actually set some scale limits. So it won't show when you are going beyond the scale, and it won't show when you're going out beyond the scale. So in beyond and out beyond, you can set, or you can just click on clear limit so that all the limits that you have set on your scale is gone. Just remember, because you have to remember when you're setting these conditions, right? So what are the conditions we did? First, the condition we did was for the with this kind of rules, right? The SQL queries. So when this is enabled, it won't show. So it's if you set this kind of queries, or if you set this kind of rules like SQL and as well as visibility range, and you forget that you set it, and you might be struggling to find why the labels are not displayed. Okay, so always remember, if you have kept this kind of constraints or limits on your data, because later on when you forgot about it and you actually wanted to display all the data, you might be having problems with that. Because I've actually faced many students doing this kind of thing. They'll actually set these kind of limits and then forget about them, and the next day when they actually in opening this project, they won't be able to find the labels, and they'll be struggling on how to enable it, because they'll keep clicking on enable and disable, but it still won't show because yeah, they had kept these kind of limits on the scale and queries. All right. So just make sure if you are actually kept these kind of things. And the next kind of thing is like you can actually change the font here. You have different kinds of default symbols. Like symbol G, you have some kind of default symbols for your labeling. Okay, so you have the callouts and you have these kind of symbols for your road kind of data, right? And then you have kind of different kinds of text fonts. So for water, you have some kind of fonts like this. You have the populated place kind of fonts like this. So you have some kind of default symbology in here. Or you can just directly change the symbol text font from here. So you have these many font styles available for you to change. You can also change out the if it's regular or bold, right? You can change it. You can also set out the colors. Okay, you can change the colors. You can set the size, right? So that's the some other formatting that we can do. Then what you have is some kind of label placements, right? So you have some basic polygon kind of labeling, which is kind of placement like this. And we have is something called boundary polygon, which means it will only show the labeling on the boundaries. Let it load. So yeah. So your labeling will be like this, only on the boundaries instead of your whole data, right? So that is the polygon boundary. And then we have land parcels, which is something like it displays on the middle of your data, right? So it changes on however you try to move your data, right? Yeah. It actually takes some time to load. I don't know why my system is lagging. I think it's probably because I'm sharing and recording at the same time. Anyway, so and then we have something called water compact, which is something like it will be elongated here. So it will be showing an elongated kind of style for your label. And we have water elongated, another one. Yeah, different kind of symbology like this. So no matter how much you change your scale, it will actually show your data the whole or filling your whole shapes. And then you have different kinds of watermark polygon. So watermark polygon is something like Yeah, it actually ends up displaying all over your data. And when you zoom in, yeah, displays like a watermark. So you know what a watermark is, right? It's something that displays all over your page so that even if there's someone tried to copy it or take a photo of it, it will show, it will still show the kind of name or trademark symbol. So it's just the same as that. It will actually show your labels as kind of watermark style. Okay. So yeah, so those are your labeling properties and your symbology properties.